All right, we are going live. Welcome to the 999 show, and my special guest here is Jenny G. And Jenny G is a certified Pilates instructor by the National Pilates Certified Program and American Sports and Fitness Association. She has been teaching Pilates and fitness classes for over 10 years and has been a wellness coordinator at the University of California, Berkeley. And so she's going to be talking today about how to stay well when the whole world is burning down around you. And so the sky is falling. And today it seems that the sky is falling, but maybe it's not falling. Maybe the sky is always falling. But for many people, it feels like the sky is falling. And Jenny here has a plan and some strategies on how to help you to get through these trying times.
Thank you so much, Bill, and it's really nice to be here. And you're right, we are in trying times, and especially now, it's been really tough stuff. And I think that people are not well. We're struggling health-wise, emotionally, physically, all of the above. And my own kind of wellness journey and how I got into Pilates and wellness coaching was I started noticing, I worked in an office like normal people. I started noticing like I was just sitting for so many hours a day and I was just at the computer and all of those physical problems that come from sitting too long, like carpal
Mm.
tunnel, neck pain, back pain, hip pain. I really started noticing that it was taking a physical toll. And I noticed that my coworkers around me, everybody was having a lot of health problems. We were just having problems like one of my coworkers was having a problem just walking from the parking lot to her car. Things hurt, her hip hurt. And I felt like it was really compromising our quality of life. We were going to be aging in an unhealthy way. And everybody, where I was working, the average commute was like an hour, 45 minutes. So people were sitting in their car for an hour, over an hour. And they were sitting, and then they would get to work, and it was more sitting. And I started kind of calculating it. And I'm like, okay, you're in your car an hour each way, 2 hours total. You're sitting in your office for like 8 hours, 9 hours, and I was like, "This is really unhealthy, this is not good," and I started looking at, how can I improve the health and well-being of, 1, myself, but also my coworkers? What could I do to make things better and to get people moving and just overall health be healthier? And I put together a wellness program in my office, and I started getting people that had never exercised, like
Mm.
never. We started doing a whole wellness program, and we got people that had diabetes, osteoporosis, like all kinds of physical problems. We started getting people actually exercising and doing a Pilates class. And I was able to put together a kind of a proposal to get funding for it. And I put together this whole program for my office and we started exercising. So lunchtime, everybody grabbed their Pilates mat, we got our equipment, and we went to this classroom space and everybody started exercising together. And this was like the only time we got physical activity. And I noticed that people started being able to do a plank, which is amazing. My
Hmm.
older coworkers, they were doing planks, and people started walking more. They didn't have as much pain. And so, just this little tweak of our office environment, it made such a difference. And
Mm.
we're, with the office environment and the workplace environments, they're geared to really be productive for the company or the organization and the agency, but not for our health. The chairs are
Mm-hmm.
designed so people will sit, 10 hours and you won't even notice it. 8 hours. People are sitting at their desk working and eating lunch at their desk. So the
Yeah.
company is really trying to get us more productive, but this isn't good for us. This is not
Mm-hmm.
a healthy, workplace with all of us, having pain and having days where we're not moving. So,
Yeah.
um, oh, go ahead.
Hmm. Oh no, I was just thinking. I was just gonna think about maybe writing some notes here. If so but I was like thinking in terms of like I remembering when I was doing, back in the McMinnville days, and and oh, actually, I ran across a photo of when you and what's his name? I'm not going to mention his name. Were
Yeah.
sitting on that couch in
Yes.
that Sherlock Holmes house that I lived in, in
Yes.
McMinnville, and there it was, and but in those days when I was doing the production labor, and there was all the um, Darren, we are talking about health and wellness and some strategies on how to stay healthy and well in in a world that feels like the sky is falling. And so, like in today's world, it certainly does feel that way in hectic lives, and you have to work longer and longer hours. And how do you how do you keep your head on straight? How do you keep it on when and you have a that job, you have a job that sucks? Or I thought maybe when I was in my younger years and I did production labor, and you get
Yes.
the carpal tunnel,
Yeah.
and you get all these things, and you're standing on concrete and all day. Because I really feel like some of my issues that I have are related to that. So like I have like some spots on my feet where I have no feeling anymore, and
Yeah.
granted
Neuropathy.
I do have like pre-diabetes, but I don't think that was the cause of it, because I think I've had those numb zones since I was in my 30s, and even before, and I really kind of can attribute that to the work environment. Now, granted, when I mentioned that to the doctor, they thought I was just full of full of crap or something like that, or or the time that I mentioned to a doctor that I thought that the employer was the migraine trigger, and he thought that was the most preposterous idea in the world. And I thought, well, how come then the migraine comes on as soon as I hit the parking lot?
You're not
Like there must be a
imagining.
correlation between the job
Yeah.
and the migraine. That there's a correlation there. Anyway, I'll let you
This is
continue. And yeah.
Yeah, not you bring up an excellent point. Not your imagination at all. I have a lot of clients that are, Silicon Valley, they're in tech, they're at a computer all day, they're sitting, their workday doesn't end after 5. I mean, they're working to, midnight, and it takes a toll. And I think that you're right, the standing on concrete, lots of low back pain, foot pain, and especially with like healthcare and nursing. I have quite a few, um, people that work in healthcare as clients, and your neck looking down at
Mm-hmm.
patients and the lifting and moving. And I've had clients that were nurses and pushing a heavy all of the medications for the floor. They're pushing a heavy cart around and they're on their feet all day. So these jobs are taking a major toll on our physical health, as well as migraine triggers. Absolutely. The
Yeah. Yeah.
lighting, the lack of fresh air,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're chemicals that are off gassing from like the carpet and furniture. So you're
Yeah.
breathing in non-fresh, non-clean air. So lots of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Because at that casino, I think that 80% of the people who ever worked there had migraines. Now, they may have had migraines before, and I still have migraines.
Yeah.
It's just that I don't have now. I have on like one migraine a week. Where when I was working there,
How
was having
frequent was it?
5. I was
Wow.
having migraines every day of the week, every
How
day that I
often
worked.
would you have to call out sick? Like this
I
affected,
didn't.
oh,
I
you
didn't.
didn't. You worked through
I
migraines.
worked through them.
Wow.
But see, most of my migraines,
Wow.
when I got the prescription medications, which was in 2018, I I get I have silent migraines. And
Wow.
so
Yeah.
I get mostly silent migraines, and so I get all these other symptoms. Sometimes I will get the headache pain. Now the migraine I had this week, I had a small amount of the headache pain, but it lasted 4 days where I felt irritated and sick, or there were all kinds of other symptoms, and I kind of feeling like you have a little mild flu, and then
Mm,
you can't sleep very well, or whatever, and just feeling just have a constant. It feel like itch. What I feel is itching powder, and it's like if I got to be really really careful, because then I might lose the temper that I don't really have, and I get more irritated. And that's essentially it's just irritated, and
migraine
but
is
yeah,
really,
or I feel but some of the things that have helped out is I got a green light. I bought a bunch of green light bulbs, which seemed to help, and then I well, the things that have worked in the past is to pull the sugar and the carbohydrates out of my diet,
yeah, yeah.
and then go into a lower carb diet. But then the other thing that has helped out a lot is I take a beetroot powder supplement, and because it kind of relaxes your blood veins or something like that, and so the Imitrex does something to your veins and your arteries, and it either opens them up or closes them down. It does one of those, I think, closes them down, and so I think, and it does, and that's why it does some magic with your cardiovascular system. And then so when I saw the beetroot supplement, I was thinking, I wonder if that would help me. But mainly I was thinking of it, for other reasons, because of whatever. And then,
Yeah, good
um,
iron and,
yeah,
minerals and yeah,
yeah.
definitely. But yeah,
Yeah.
with the workplace, it's really hard to control your work environment and things like with migraines, having a different type of lighting so you're not under fluorescent lights. It's hard to push for that and advocate for wellness, but it's
Hmm.
something that um, I found if you really get band together as employees and say, this only benefits our workplace as a whole. If people are not as sick, they're coming into work, they're working, they're productive. If they have migraines, they're not as productive, they're not feeling well. So,
Hmm.
advocating in the workplace and pushing for healthier workplace practices, like in my wellness coaching, I started having people do walking meetings, and everybody would
Hmm.
just walk together, and we would go and be meeting and talking, and we'd be out walking, of course, when the weather permits, but it really made a difference. It was nice to get
Hmm.
one, fresh air, two, be in out in the sun, out in the elements, and we were physically kind of taking a break from being at a computer, being at a screen, and we would walk, and it was like a really good way to also just keep being productive, but we were exercising at the same time. So it was really win
Yeah.
win. But that's something you really have to push for and advocate for and really not drop the ball on. So we really pushed for these kinds of things because, if you're dealing with a really, bad workplace, you're coming home and it spills over to your family. You feel terrible. You like you were saying,
Hmm.
you feel irritable, that patience and that, good mood, it just dissipates. So that,
Yeah, yeah.
being in a and especially if you're in a really crummy, toxic workplace, which
Hmm.
everybody's been there,
Yeah,
um,
everybody has, and then and
everybody
it's like
some
it's like
really bad workplaces.
what choices are for down and where I live, and what are my choices for employment? And then it's like, okay, you can drive like some of my neighbors that they had until they got that job at the steel mill, they were driving like 150 miles a day for work,
This
and
this
and
is
and
totally our environment here, sitting in
yeah,
traffic. This is our middle name. My area is very heavy, heavy traffic, and so we're used to being in traffic for over an hour, not
yeah,
moving,
yeah,
and that is yeah, and that sadly is the new norm, and driving 50 miles, driving 100 miles, people
yeah.
have to do
Well,
that, and
that's
it's
right.
wrecking our bodies, it's wrecking us,
Yeah.
and so that's why we
Well.
need to, look at ways, how can I make myself healthy? What can I do about
Hmm.
this? Because,
Hmm.
it spills over to your, just your free time, into your family, into your long-term aging. We don't want to be aging in this way that, we're getting old, really old before our time. Like nobody wants
Hmm.
this low quality of life. And so
Well,
that's
but then
what we
again, if
have
we
to
look
look
at
at.
people getting old before their times, you see, you know, I can remember back when I was looking for somebody, and I was, and when I was, and then I was like looking at, mail order bride sites and shit like that. Sorry about my
Oh my
language, but I was like,
God.
but I was going out there. I was looking for that, and then I was looking. Oh, Russian brides. I was looking at Russian
No, no.
brides. And wait. Let me just tell my story here. And it was about, and I was like, I was thinking, well, how old are these women? And it was like
Mm,
it was like, they were all like under 30. And I'm thinking, holy crap, they look like they're 50, and
oh,
well, why would okay, well, we'll just scrap that, because this was before internet, and this was in a literal magazine, mail
oh
order
my
bride
gosh.
in a magazine. It wasn't online. I had this stuff, and thinking, because you're thinking you want your own color, but then anymore, I don't really care about that, and then. Or maybe you're looking at the Philippines or something like that, and then somebody tells me, "Oh, well, you know, Filipino women are kind of jealous," and they give me a story, and oh, I don't think I can deal with that. I don't think I could deal with that kind of emotion, strong emotions, and so maybe I'm just better off to be alone. And now I'm almost 60 years old, and so it's like at this time I don't really care anymore, and and the dog is much better, and
Dogs are good. Dogs are good.
yeah, yeah.
That's that's also that companionship with a pet. Taking care of a pet is really a way to boost your health. There's a kind of major study about blue zones. And so the blue zones are areas around the world where they've discovered that they're the super agers. People are 90 years old, 100 years old, and they're healthy. They're physically
Hmm.
healthy, they're mentally healthy. And so they did a study. What is it about these blue zones around the world? Some of them were Japan, Costa Rica actually has a blue zone region. Also, they had Loma Linda, California, because people were healthier there and they were super agers. So they looked at these studies and why are these people so healthy? And they found out diet, exercise, community involvement, sense of purpose. And this really helped, even though, all of these areas, they have problems. Every area, every country, we all have economic issues. We all have political issues. But what is it that we can stay healthy and stay afloat and stay positive and stay in a good physical condition, even though this stuff is going on in the world? What can we do to avoid cognitive decline, to avoid osteoporosis and uh, things like diabetes? What can we
Hmm.
do to
Well,
really prevent this?
if you're looking at like the Mediterranean diet, which they say is the healthiest diet in the world, and then but you look at it, but it's not just the foods they eat, it's also the lifestyle that goes along with
It's
it,
the
eating
lifestyle.
as a
Exactly.
family, or if you don't have a family, it's the family that you choose. You're eating together and you're taking your
Exactly.
time. You're having a
Yes.
multi-course meal. Your dinner time, maybe it ranges over a course of like two
You're not
hours,
at
and
the computer
yeah, and
eating
you
and
don't have the
working.
TV on. You don't have the TV on, and you're
Yes.
there engaging in conversation, and
Yes.
you're having a more natural human
Human.
communal relationship, and
Precisely.
you're going back into a sense.
Yeah.
We're not hunter gatherers anymore, but we are all family orientated people, whether we have
Yes.
family or not, because it's either
Right.
your family that you were born into, or it's the family that you choose for your own.
Choose. Absolutely. No,
You
you
know.
hit the nail on the head. And we're wired to want to be a part of the community and wanting to work together and to eat together and slow down and enjoy life. That is the way we're wired. That's good for us. And the Blue
Hmm.
Zones, they really found that the community involvement and helping others and volunteering, that also gives you that sense of purpose, and that mentally was good for people. They really had a less of a cognitive decline, and that community involvement sense of, I'm
Hmm.
valued in my community, I have a purpose, and that is so important. And that's something that we need to make that our goal. We need to focus on that. What is my purpose? How can I help and serve my community? What good can I do today? How have I taken care of myself? And these are things that
Hmm.
are just really going to promote better aging, a healthier lifestyle, a better quality of lifestyle. They
Yeah.
also did this major study about also the blue zones, but also there was a major study of about 4,000 people in Brazil. They said they gave them a task and they measured how people got up off the floor. Sounds so simple, right? But you would be surprised. There's a lot of people that cannot get up and down off the floor, even though they're 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old. They struggle, like going down on the floor and playing with the dog or playing with kids, their grandkids.
Hmm.
People can't get up off the floor. So they did this study. They said, okay, I'm going to assign you this task. Get up off the floor without using your hands. And so people found ways to get up off the floor. They didn't use their hands to like grab onto the chair or onto the couch.
Yeah.
They just got up. Then they counted, okay, if you didn't use your hands and you just were able to pop up off the floor, that you're going to age better. And they studied these people over the years
Hmm.
and they said, this is a good indicator of how you will age and how healthy you will be. Then they had people that maybe used one hand, that kind of they weren't as healthy if they had to like use a
Hmm.
hand up. And then people that needed help, somebody had to really assist them. They said that it was a big indicator for how you will age. So, Bill, get down, get down on the floor, see how you can pop up off the floor. And I actually assign this task to clients. I have a group class with, 5 people, 6 people in it, and I assign them, get up off your mat without using your hands. And Actually, even though somebody's 40 years old, people struggle. 30 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, people can struggle. So that's something, a little thing, it's small, but just doing something like that. And
Mm,
then, looking for, how can I put exercise into my life? Can I use like hand weights and just do, weightlifting at my, in my living room? How can I bring more steps? Can I go for walks at lunchtime? Can I walk in the evening? Can I walk the dog, a couple times a day? And just putting into the um, kind of very overly sitting, laying down, being on the couch lifestyle, can we shake that up? Can we,
mm.
improve and finding ways that we can start making it a habit versus I sit all day, that's what I do. We've got to break that because it's
Yeah.
just not, yeah.
Well,
Somebody said, I want to
it makes me
swing and a
think. It makes me think here, which I want to swing and a trampoline to work your muscles without working out. Okay. Makes me want to think,
there's,
well, I wonder if while you are talking, I will go sit on the floor and I'll see if I can get up.
yeah, do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll just I'll do that here and for everybody as a
Without
demonstration of how
without
badly
using
out of
your
shape I
hands,
am. Okay.
without using your hands. It's an indicator of how you're going to
My
age.
chair.
And the audience should do it too.
Oh,
Get
no,
down there. Don't
no,
hurt yourself. Don't hurt
no.
yourself. No hands. Yeah. And get up without using your hands. So pretend that your hands are tied. Yeah. Can you do it? See, I bet you didn't think you would have assignments, that you would have
Wait.
assignments during this interview.
Well, I did. I did have to use my elbows.
You use your that, you can't use your elbows. You got to get up without using any arm, any hand, any elbow.
Well, I guess I'm in terrible shape. I'm
No, it
uh
means you're
I'm
a
a
work in
goner.
progress.
I'm
You're
a
a work in
goner.
progress. You got to keep working.
I'm a goner. It's a gon. Yeah, yeah.
So these things, and start small. Maybe, somebody can't get up off the floor very easily, but that doesn't mean that is going to be who you are tomorrow. These things take work. And the important thing is to start now because,
Mm,
you can age. And do you want to be able to get up off the floor or do you want to not be able to get off the floor? The choice is yours, but you have to go and do it and make that effort because they're finding out. I took an osteoporosis class and they found out that the age of there's two different osteoporosis. So osteoporosis is full problems with bone density and you see that in a lot of older people. So if you guys have ever seen somebody kind of hunched over like an older person and their spine is they've got the hump, that's osteoporosis. Then there's
hmm.
osteopenia, which is the beginnings. You have a little bit of bone density loss, but you're not quite there for osteoporosis. The thing is with this, because people are not building bone density and they're not exercising, they're finding that osteoporosis and osteopenia is occurring earlier and earlier in younger people.
Mm,
And that's concerning. It's because kids aren't playing outside. They're at the video game console, they're playing on the
yeah,
computer, and they're on social
yeah.
media.
It's the. I kind of feel like we're. I feel like our child labor laws are hamstringing the entire population, in that people should be having employment operate. They should like start that around like 14 because I think with the family business I
Yeah.
started work when I was 8
Yes,
but it
that's
wasn't like paid work. It wasn't paid work. It was like, I'll
no.
go down to the mill, and Dad was working, and here's a
Yeah.
shovel, here, do this, and then shovel out a conveyor or something like that. And then when I get to
Yeah.
be like 12 years old, I think it was, oh, here's a splitting wall, why don't you go split wood, and and that was the
Yeah.
way it was. And then between seventh and eighth grade, it was the first time I actually worked in the mill pulling green
Yeah.
shade. And a year before I got a work permit, and that was during the summer. Then when I got my work permit, and then what, I was like
Mhm.
a summer job. I think I was like 15 or 16, working a graveyard shift job in a cannery.
Yeah.
See and so it's like, I think what for some people, the argument of against the child labor thing is that, well, I don't know. I think it's a bad. It's I think we're not doing our kids anything good
Well, I
by.
think the majority of us, like our age and, 40 and beyond, I think most of us did have summer jobs or they had paper routes or people worked at a nursery or a berry farm or, a lot of summer jobs. That was really common, but we're not seeing this as much. And it's not always
Mhm.
labor loss. I think that people are so geared to studying, being at the computer, and really people aren't just not getting outside and they need to be.
Yeah.
We need to be outside and we need to be moving. And bone density is actually something you can improve. I saw a comment earlier about somebody talking about their spine. Bone density, actually, you can improve and build bone density. So sometimes with the
Mhm.
osteoporosis, we think, oh my gosh, osteopenia, osteoporosis, we can't change our bone density. But the truth is, we can do weight bearing exercises and we can work with our doctor or physical therapist or Pilates instructor about how to safely, if you have osteoporosis, how to safely exercise and build bone density because it's
Mm.
not, oh, I have this, I'm just done for. It's not like that. You can improve, you can make changes. And that's one of the things that we need to do and realize and just start moving, start doing things to make your body healthier. And just the movement is also going to help things like depression, feeling overwhelmed, anxiety. Exercise will help a lot of those things. And it's really hard in, just being in front of the computer to kind of, we're addicted. We're addicted to it. It's
Yeah.
addictive,
Yeah.
the doom
Yeah.
scrolling. But they're finding that's
Mhm.
rewiring our brains. And it is things like Facebook, Pinterest. I mean, it's really addictive. TikTok, people are on there for hours. And,
Yeah.
that constant, just nonstop when we really need to
Mhm.
shut that down and get active and be outside. Go for a hike, take the dogs out, go and enjoy nature and separate yourself from the screen time because mentally it's not good for us. And I think that they're just beginning to study it, but I think they don't really know what AI is going to do to us, what constant, interacting with the screen, what is that going to do to children? I mean, we really don't know. It's kind of uncharted territory
Mhm.
emotionally and just the physical. From my point of view, I get younger and younger clients in and they have that computer posture. So their neck is very forward. They're starting to get that rounded cervical spine, that rounded neck, rounded shoulders. And this is like younger people that shouldn't look like this. In the past, you would see older, really older people looking like this. But as a Pilates
Mhm.
instructor, I have people coming in that are, you know, 30, early 40s, and they have postural issues. And it's the computer, it's driving, it's long commutes, and this is a bad trend. We don't want to get like that, especially in their 20s or 30s. That is like not good.
Yeah. So for anybody who's just tuning in, the topic of the day is wellness, and that's like health and wellness, how to maintain a wellness in our busy computer lives right now. And so I also wanted to say, if you are just tuning in and you like the content, make sure you push the like button and this is the subscribe button. Now I do a lot of random content on this. This is a kind of a talk show, and so being a talk show, there's a lot of different stuff that comes on my channel. It's not, I haven't niched down to one small topic, and so tonight we're talking about health and wellness, and which is some parts of that is things that I'm interested in, trying to be as healthy and well as possible. And and so this is Jenny G, and Jenny G um, is an expert in wellness.
Yes. So, I wanted to talk about stress and how to manage stress. So, we talked about exercising and how that physically, the sitting and our jobs are making us unhealthy physically. But how do we manage the stress? Because, you know, being in an office for hours a day sitting. I mean, we just carry this stress home with us. It's just like we're in the red alert all the time, and that's not
Hmm.
good. That's not good for us.
Yeah.
So
Well,
so
I was like thinking back when I was living in Seattle, and I left my car. I left the car behind, and I went up and moved up there without a car,
yeah,
because what was kind of preceding that was I wasn't really liking driving that well. But even then, it was like
yeah,
my commute was like from McMinnville to Newburgh. What is that? It was like a 20-mile round trip, and I was like
yeah.
complaining about the time that I was spending behind the wheel with just 20 miles a
20
day
miles.
to, and
Yes.
and then being in a commute of less than an hour a day. Unless you get stuck behind a train or something like that, and then maybe it might be an hour or whatever. but
Yeah.
but that was that was I was complaining about that. And then when I went up to Seattle, I ditched the car, and I started walking. When I left in 2011, I was walking 50 miles a week. you
I
know
believe it. Yeah. Yeah.
and I was also riding the bus. But I remember this experience when I was talking with my dad on the phone. I was down in the U District, and going back to my residence on Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
There, I was going on the backside of Capitol Hill, and I was walking, and that was I think it was like a 4 or 5 mile walk that day. And I was talking on the telephone the entire
With
time while I
normal
was
voice.
walking,
That's
normal,
best.
just fast. And, I was walking at like 3 miles an hour or faster, because I got to a point where
Yeah.
I could cross a mile in 13 minutes.
I
A
believe
13,
it. Yeah.
a 13 or 12, it was actually 12 and a half minute mile. That was the fastest that I ever crossed. But I crossed 2 miles in what, 25 minutes. 2 miles in 25 minutes. But a lot of like my feet issues that I've talked about, I thought about, was wondered how much did running for buses in dress shoes impact you're in dress shoes, and how much did that cause nerve damage into my feet.
Yeah.
You don't know. It's like,
Yeah.
people don't run in dress shoes, but I was running in dress shoes all the time. Or like, there's the bus over there,
Run
and
for
the
it.
next bus that's coming is in an hour, and I don't want to be stuck here an hour. So I ran across traffic. I did things that you would not do, things that was like beyond common sense. These are common sense things that you don't do. You don't run across traffic to catch your bus.
Oh, I
But
lived
I
in San
did.
Francisco, so I know
Yeah.
all about that, and you don't
Or
always.
you don't cross over expressways on foot. Oh no, that's not very wise. And
Nope. But
but
all
it was
that
during
walking,
Seafair, so there was no yeah. But
all of that walking though, I mean, what a difference. And you're interacting with people, you're seeing murals, you're seeing, just all the, interesting stuff going on. And
hmm
how nice is that? You're exercising, you're out in the fresh air. And little things like that it makes such a huge impact. And I think that, any kind of miles you can put on, any steps you can put on, even if you start small, it's really beneficial. It's just such a good anything you can do every day. It's so
yeah.
important, so good.
Well, I try. It's not always possible, but one of the things that I do is I have a stack of coffee table books, and it's about this high, and I pull them out at night after I put my mother to bed, and then I will step up and down on this
It's a good
while
idea.
watching TV or something like that, because there's an exercise bike, but it's like I'm hard of hearing because I'm what, almost 60, and then in all the years of working in around machines, and then maybe not wearing good ear protection. But then the stuff that
Mhm.
damaged my ears even more was the electric guitar, sitting in front of an amplifier with it turned up loud, and
Yep.
or with earbuds and all that kind of stuff. So you damage your hearing, and so I'm hard of hearing, and uh, um, and for months I haven't been able to hear out of this ear at all. I mean, I know that
Wow.
it's plugged up, but
Mhm.
but anyways, that's neither here nor that's another story. But
So
it's
when
not it's not yeah.
you're bringing up this excellent point. You're using these books that you already had and you're
hmm
exercising with them. Really, you don't need a gym membership. There's things that you can do, and there's really good the resources online, or you can start out with, having your doctor refer you to a physical therapist, and starting out with, if you have all kinds of health issues, starting out with exercises that one are manageable for you and at the level that people can do safely. There's
hmm
so many things, and you really can find really inexpensive workout equipment. My clients find things at like TJ Maxx and Ross and,
yeah
Walmart. And there's also a lot of buy nothing free groups, and you can find exercise equipment there. And
mm
they have, all kinds of good things that you don't have to have a lot of money to work out. You don't have to think, oh, I have to buy all of this expensive like gym equipment. No, you really don't. There's lots of
or
cost
like
effective things you can do.
which I haven't done for about a week, but um vertical planking against a wall, leaned up in there, and just
Yes,
and to try to do that for like 5 minutes, leaning in or
100%.
something like that,
Wall
and
sits, yes.
yeah,
Wall sits,
or
um,
deep knee bends,
deep
and
knee
things like
bends.
that, you know.
Absolutely. Weights,
hmm
doing just hand weights, those are
Yeah.
fantastic. Doing things that, are so simple. Just going up onto tippy toes, calf raises. That is something you can
hmm
do while you're making dinner. So many things. And just using your body's resistance, doing things with your arms, doing arm circles. There's so many things that,
Yeah.
older people can do that are totally just free. You don't need the special equipment. And,
hmm
there's just ways to start exercising and get going. I think that we oftentimes, and this is what I hear from clients, people say, "Oh, but I need all of this stuff, and I need this, and I need a big
Mm,
space," and I feel like it's just a way to put stuff off, but really we don't need those things. There's really simple things
yeah,
that we can do.
because how many times do people buy a piece of equipment and then they use it like once, and then it becomes like clothing tree or
Oh,
something like
oh,
that.
they
It becomes
use it
like,
for the clothing tree.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah. It's
yes,
like that. It's like a we have this mentality that you need to
yeah.
buy something,
Buy stuff, buy stuff.
and rather than just use what you have. And that's, and
Yeah,
that's also probably part of wellness is being able to manage your money, and managing your
yeah,
money. And also probably another thing that can lead to better wellness is knowing how to cook for yourself, because
cooking
also
for
because
yourself.
in this time in these time period, that is leading to all, you're working all these hours, but then again, when you are working all those hours, you can't properly take care of your diet. And so that's why you have all these services of the Door Dashes, and you have
Oh,
all of these
yes,
delivery
yes,
services, and like what,
yeah.
when you were talking about healthcare workers and backs, and I'm thinking one of my relatives, one is a healthcare worker, and she's not, what is she? She's like, what, 33 years old, and
Mm,
her back is just completely wrecked,
mm,
and then her older sister, is a salesperson and has 13 states as a sales area, and is on the
in
airplane
the
every week
car,
to
airplane.
a
Mhm.
and but she's
Yeah,
like she makes a really good wage, but because of DoorDash and because of this dash and that dash,
yeah.
and
The
ordering
money
out your
flies out the
food,
window.
the
Yeah,
money is evaporates, it's gone. And it's just
yeah,
like, well, you have all, you're not even in a place where you can build. It's like, maybe you would rather, instead of, you have the time, you cook something and you do that, and then
yeah,
the money that you would spend on DoorDash, well, why don't you just buy stocks and things like that, and work on your financial portfolio, and then you can get this sort of a satisfaction of watching those numbers go up. You know,
yeah.
um, because for some people, I mean,
Well,
that's,
yeah.
for some people,
Food
it's
is a
like,
big issue.
yeah,
Food's a big issue, and
hmm
especially, I think it's important to say with if people have a disability, it's hard to get healthy food that you can cook
hmm
easily with a disability or limited mobility. It's really hard.
yeah,
Or on the road, absolutely. But there are ways around it. There are ways to be
or you live in a
healthy.
food desert like I do.
Food desert,
You're
absolutely.
looking at like,
Yes.
what, that you have to drive to get decent
Yeah.
produce. It's a 50-mile
Yeah.
drive, and you're thinking,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a round trip, but it makes the story better to say, oh yeah, that's right, I drove 70 miles to go
Well,
to a high-end grocery store to get my
not
bulk
everybody
foods.
can get to a, farmer's market, and the farmer's
Yeah.
market's not around. So, that's when we have to look at what do we have around us? How can we eat healthy with what we've got? You know,
hmm
Frozen vegetables at Walmart.
Yeah.
We have limited income. There's ways to be healthy. You can do things like, you know, find what's affordable. It's rice, it's like brown rice, beans, it's frozen vegetables. Those are some of the cheapest foods. And sometimes, that's kind of all there is. That's all there is
Yeah.
because we are in a food desert,
But
ordering.
then again, if we go, let's say we take rice and beans, but if you're diabetic, those aren't
Yeah,
the best foods to be eating. At
that's,
least not
yeah,
not the rice, but there are ways to
yeah,
prepare. There are
yeah,
ways to prepare food so that you can transform the starches in them. But because if you're trying to pull the carbohydrates out of your diet, it's
yeah.
kind of the beans, because it has a lot of the fiber in them and it's more
The
well-rounded.
fiber's
But it's the
good. Yeah.
it's the wheat, it's the processed foods, and all of those things that also lead to not being well. And if you are working 70, 80 hours a week plus commuting, you
Yeah.
are not eating healthy foods. You're
And
eating what is
I
there, what's
definitely was
available.
doing that. I was doing that. I had 2 jobs. Like, everybody in my area has a side gig. They work 40 hours and then or more, and then they have a side job that they work 10 to 20 hours at. And I was doing that. I think my days were so long. I was teaching and I had a regular office job, and it was a really long day. Some days I would start at 8 in the morning and I'd end at 9 p.m. And the food it was challenging. Things like a crock pot or a Instapot, things like that. Really tried to
Hmm.
use those things, doing,
But when
beans in the
you were
crock pot.
doing, but when you were doing those two things like that together, you were younger though. It's those.
Not that long ago.
I know not that long ago. You were
But not
doing
that long ago. Yeah,
well.
it was just
I could still
pretty
work like that in
recent.
my 40s, but when I crossed over
Yeah.
into my 50s, it made it hard to do that. And then the desire to
Yeah.
work 90 hours a week wasn't there. But
No.
when you're in your 30s, in your
I
20s, in your
think
30s, you can
some
do that kind of stuff.
I think sometimes it's necessity. It's not like you wanna do it. Sometimes you
Yeah.
have to. And, if you live in an
Hmm.
expensive area like I do, California is expensive. You have to do that to make it. And sometimes you don't want to, but you do. The key thing is, you know, taking care of yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally. And diet is such a key. What I
Hmm.
would do is, like I said, I'd use the crock pot. I'd put in black beans in the crock pot and have, brown rice, black beans, or I would do, soups. And sometimes that was just a real lifesaver because you could plug it in, dump the stuff in there, frozen vegetables, whatever, and you have
Hmm.
this, like, healthier food, and you weren't doing DoorDash because that's expensive. Who wants to waste your money? No.
Yeah.
Money, is just kinda going out the window, and you're eating unhealthy food. And then also, prepared meals, like those meal services, those are really expensive. Who has money for that?
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah.
no. Going to a
Hmm.
restaurant, that's expensive. So I didn't do any of those things. I actually really rarely go out to dinner. I think that it's just super expensive, and I do batch cooking. That's a really good
Hmm.
way to do it. Big tray of veggies, put it in there, bake everything. I bake tofu and I have like stuff
Mm.
I get from
Oh, that's right.
Costco.
I didn't tell you that the my oven went out on Christmas Day.
Oh my God.
So
I
I've been without an oven since
Oh
Christmas.
my
And it was like on Christmas Eve, I baked I made a pizza with homemade dough and everything. It was like fantastic, and that was the last time I was able to use the oven.
Oh my gosh. You're
And
gonna
so I
cook
was
in my
like,
wood stove. Wood stove
well, I did. I was
pizza.
trying because I was without like um, electricity for a little while during one of those
Oh, that's
storms,
right.
and
You had that storm. Oh no.
yeah. Well, actually,
Oh
we didn't really
gosh.
lose electricity. What we did is
Oh.
I lost the phone and the internet and I lost services, the telecommunication services. I didn't
Oh
lose
my God.
electricity,
It's crazy.
but I was like trying to like bake
Mm.
on the top of the stove with a Dutch oven, and then
Oh
it just burnt
no.
on the bottom and it didn't really
Oh
work, and
no.
it was just like a
Stop.
or on top of the stove with the Dutch oven, and it's just a major pain in
God.
the ass.
Oh, that's terrible. I feel for you. That's not fun. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And
Yes,
then
it's
and then you're trying to I mean, like I said, I knew that I've been on diabetes medication for a couple of years, but I
mhm.
didn't. do anything, to moderate my diet or anything like that. And then it was like in the fall, I was thinking, oh, maybe I should start doing that. And
Yeah.
then I got a blood sugar meter,
Yeah. Good.
and then I looked at my fasting blood sugar, and I said, holy shit, I've
Mm,
crossed over into diabetes.
yeah.
And then so now I've been like trying to, this isn't the first time that I
Mm-mm.
have pulled the carbohydrates out of my diet and done
Mm-hmm.
all that. This is like or I've had trouble making exercise stick
It's
in the
hard.
habit, and I haven't,
Yes.
and I was never able, and so it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, that you would have people come over, relatives come over, and then you were in a mode where you were walking an hour a day, and then they come, and then they're hanging around for like a week and a half, and then all your habits go out the window, and then it's like you
Yeah.
try to get back into it, and then it's hard to get back into it. So it's like,
Yeah.
for me, it's like, okay, the exercise habit
It's
it's
hard.
fine as long as nobody comes to the house, and nobody
Yeah.
and stays for a week. No week long visitors, or anything like that. And anything to,
Yeah.
or you don't go anywhere, you don't go on vacation
This
or
is
anything like that.
where we come into the difficult part of being, for me, being a wellness coach, is protecting your health, your mental health, and your emotional well-being. So part of really being healthy is setting boundaries. It's really protecting your health and putting your health and wellness up into a priority. And it can be a little uncomfortable sometimes, where food is a really difficult, tricky area. So food, oftentimes with family, is a very sacred thing, and saying that you don't want to eat unhealthy things because of diabetes, it's really hard. People get offended when you don't want to eat their food, and it's really
Hmm.
a struggle. But I found saying things like, and you can script it out. So if anybody in the audience has this problem with, you're trying to eat healthier, you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to, kick, unhealthy eating, is to say, script it out, say, "Oh, my doctor has me eating a certain way, and I need to do this for my health. I hope you understand." Tell people in advance if you're going to visit relatives. Let them know you're on a very specific diet. You
Yeah.
have to maintain that. And I think too, when you kind of add that authority, well, my doctor has put me on this, specific diet, it's harder for them to question that, and it's harder for them to be like, "Oh, just, eat however you want." And especially if you live with family, this is particularly hard because frequently they'll want to eat whatever they want. "Well, we've always eaten
Hmm.
ice cream at midnight. This is the way
Hmm.
we, do things. We have hot
Yeah.
chips.
Yeah.
I want this." Frequently, a lot of families are like that. Everybody has that, and it's a
Yeah. It's
struggle. And if you're
yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
make changes, you've gotta really put your health and well-being first. And I tell my clients, what good is it if your family doesn't have you anymore because you have all of these health issues? These
Hmm.
It gets to a certain point where it's serious enough that if you don't do something, it's gonna be dire. And I think you have to always have that conversation with family members and friends. I need to make this change for me because,
Yeah.
we get to a point where we can no longer, there's no leeway. After you get to
Well,
be
it
50,
is that
60, yeah,
because I went to the eye doctor and they saw damage on my retina due to blood sugar.
blood sugar, exactly.
And so
This
it's like,
is,
yeah, my
yeah,
blood sugar is under control
yeah,
now. It's under control now,
no,
but
yeah,
it wasn't
yeah,
under control 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago. It was out of
right.
control 2 months ago.
Exactly. And, if people, their one takeaway is, this can be lasting damage. And the important thing is for everybody to start early. You really need to tackle these things because, you know, long term, they have really big consequences. You know,
Hmm.
nobody wants osteoporosis. We don't want to be diabetic. It's hard and making everyday changes. It's hard to change behavior. It's hard to change your family, but you have to do start with yourself and just
Yeah, I
really,
think
you
especially
know,
like,
get moving and yeah,
you know,
get
if
eating
you
healthier.
have that desire, you want a Reese's peanut butter cup. But you know, the Reese's peanut butter cups today taste like crap.
Yeah,
They
they've
changed the
changed. I think they've
recipe in the
changed the
last 5 years.
recipe.
You know, or you know, I like bought tofu. I've always liked tofu,
And it's not to say that
and
you can't once in a while have a treat, just don't have it all the time. You know, if you like a certain, treat, make it a treat. A treat should be once in a while, but, we don't have to eat, have soda every
well,
day, only soda and no water. That's not good. Do
yeah,
work with,
the last time I had like some Oreos and I went camping, I ended up coming home and I ate the whole package, but then I ended up buying 20 more packages and eating that, you know, over a
yeah,
course of a month, you know. And so it's like there
yeah,
is no, some of those things you just
no,
gotta, like, you can't have. It's like
yeah,
Oreos. No, you can't have it.
absolutely.
You know, you can't have
Yeah,
it. Or or these
it's,
other things. It's like clove cigarettes. When I was
just,
working at the
yeah.
casino and people were smoking, and see, clove cigarettes pulled me back into the tobacco addiction more times than I could possibly count, because I've been off of tobacco since 2012, but I started getting off of tobacco in 2000. But during that 12-year period, I got hooked back into smoking again about 5 times due to clove cigarettes, just smelling that smell.
Mm.
Or
But
then some of the, yeah.
and sometimes it's things like, what I find really helpful, cigarettes are expensive, I don't those aren't in my budget or, expensive takeout, not in my budget. Sometimes if you make
Hmm.
it about budget, that also is really helpful. At
Yeah,
least
but
for me, I'm frugal, so I am a penny pincher, and so that works for me. I'm like, "Nope, that's off
yeah,
limits. That's
that works
expensive."
for you. But then
Because
other
I am
ways, because we had this discussion before,
yeah, we
and
totally have.
when it came to alcohol, I said, well, if it's just come to booze, you go up the chain. And so instead of buying
And
a
I'm like,
$5 bottle of
"No, you
whiskey,
don't."
instead of buying a $5 bottle of whiskey, you buy a $50 bottle of whiskey. Or you know, you want some tequila, and so instead of buying buy whatever the Corvo, you go buy this organic kind, this Blanco, and this organic stuff, and you pay $50 for the bottle. And then and so if you have a money idea of money, well, you're not gonna go and drink that whole $50 bottle of tequila in like one sitting.
True.
You're gonna and so you're gonna have it there for 3 months. And so before I
Yeah.
went on the metformin, that was how I dealt with things, is that I did buy top shelf liquor. I missed the liquor. You know, I like the cognac, and I like the bourbon, and I like the scotch, and I like tequila.
But
And
can
so
you
I
replace it? That's the thing. Replace things. So you don't want to like cut all the enjoyable things out of your life,
oh
but can you replace it? Can you think of like, hey, instead of spending money on takeout and DoorDash, can I do something like I'm going to plan a little road trip and I'm going to go to the beach and, take a
mhm.
friend and walk the
Well,
dogs, plan
liquor is not
something
something you can replace. They have, unless you like
with a
mixed
beach ball.
drinks. If you like liquor, is not something you can, and neither is tobacco something you can replace either.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there are things that you just have to like not do, and
Yeah.
you know, tobacco is one of those things. Or like with me, my tobacco choice was Copenhagen. I like
Mm,
I like this Copenhagen snuff, and I liked clove cigarettes. And
Yeah.
you know, actually, I still have my last can of Copenhagen that I ever bought, and it's all dried up, and I have it, and it's like what, from 2012. It's and it was
Mm.
right before my dad passed away. And because I remember the last time I used tobacco, and it was like, and that was it.
Yeah.
I just walked away from
Just
it,
completely
and it
walked
was
away
gone.
from
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I just
But
oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
no.
Oh, I was saying, we should probably kind of close up. I actually have, speaking of wellness, I actually have to teach a group class early in the morning. So, were
Oh,
there
okay.
any final questions from anybody? Did you see any questions, or did you have any
I
questions
I guess I've been asking my questions all along the way. I
along the
don't know that.
way?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I've got to teach an early morning group class, and I taught this morning, and I just really find that just the hardest part is getting started, and that's what we have to
Hmm.
do. The hardest part is like just doing it, and at some point you have to just do that kind of like, you know what? I am not gonna make excuses anymore, and I'm just gonna start exercising and, figure it out, and, it's like,
Hmm.
we've gotta start somewhere, and I had to start somewhere. I wasn't a super athlete. It was tough. So,
Yeah.
I started, and, I feel like I'm grateful I did. Every day you can, just make a difference in your life and be healthier. It's just a
Mm.
step forward. It's a step forward to being healthier. So, yeah.
Well, and then, but you see, is you have a different constitution than I do,
But I didn't
and
always
it
have
be
this.
no,
I
I
didn't
know,
always have
but
this.
you were able to make it stick, and so like I had an experience. I was like walking, I was starting to walk more, going out in the rain and walking again.
Good.
And
Yeah.
then I thought, oh, this feels so great. It's so great to do this. And then,
Yeah.
then something, then something breaks your routine. And then, 2 weeks
Yeah.
go by and you haven't done that kind of, and it's like, well, then you completely forgot that you were feeling great and all of that while you were
Yeah.
doing that. And,
That's
or,
sometimes when are in that's a challenge. Accountability. I tell clients that they're like, "Oh, I just, make excuses all the time. I never want to get off the couch. I love TV," which everybody loves TV, but I say, make yourself accountable. Join a class, even if it's online, a workout class, some sort of exercise class, or find
hmm,
a workout partner, like your family member or a friend. Find some system of being held accountable. That is a really big way to kind of make yourself. It's like, well, my friend's
yeah,
waiting for me. I can't blow them off. Otherwise I'm going to be a
yeah.
jerk. So,
Well, I would like to
things like
walk.
that.
I'd like to walk further, but down on the corner, there's a guy who's got these dogs that are really more half wild, like wolves, and
Feral.
they'll start
Yeah.
tearing into you,
Oh my gosh. Yeah, maybe you should
and
take some
so
trails to walk.
like if you're walking by the dogs, you got to be carrying a stick with you. It's like, oh, well, you
It's just
better, it's
pepper
like they start,
spray.
and because they got the, but see that guy has he hunts with dogs, and he
Oh, no,
raises
that's
dogs for
good.
hunting, and
Yeah.
and everything, and they have it's just a nice dog, it's a nice family dog, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, for your
no.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
all
I
right,
better get going. It's been
all right.
great talking to you, and thanks for having me on your show. And
Yeah,
it's
well,
been
this was
good seeing
fun.
you. Yeah,
All right. Well, we're
definitely.
gonna we're gonna I'm gonna just end the live stream. Thank you everybody for being here, and just hang out here for a second more, Jenny, um
Sounds
and uh
good.
uh, uh and so thank you, Maria, and thank you everybody who came into the chat, push the like button, and all the other buttons. And if you made it this far onto the replay, please put a green star, no, green hearts into the comment section. All right. Good night, and thank you very much.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye.